Dear friends, we are pleased to offer you the opportunity to watch a segment of Sergey Lavrov's speech in English. This excerpt highlights the most important points. In his speech, he addressed many relevant topics related to the current situation and prospects for international cooperation. We wish you an enjoyable viewing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, dear colleagues. We are grateful to the Brazilian presidency for the meeting on current global issues, which was organized here in New York. The formation of a multilateral world requires the modernization of the international governance architecture. If we want to build a more just and democratic world order, relying, of course, on the enduring principles of the UN Charter in their entirety and in all their interrelationships. The Group of 20, as a leading economic forum, is able to give a powerful impetus to these objective processes that are dictated by life itself. We believe that the G20 should strictly adhere to the mandate assigned to it, not delve into issues of peace and security, and other purely ununiversal problems. It is also important that the activities of our platform continue to be strictly based on the principle of consensus. Last year, at the G20 summit in New Delhi, we promised to collectively strengthen the voice of developing countries in collective decision-making. It is absolutely necessary to translate these assurances into concrete actions. The reform of international institutions, which should be considered as global public goods, should be carried out, taking into account the interests of new growing centers of world development. Current realities indicate that the ratio in the weight of economic leaders has undergone significant changes. BRICS members 2 years ago, 5 more bypassed the level of real gross domestic product, and, according to forecasts, by 2028 year, now a dozen BRICS members will produce about 37 world products, while the 7 will sink to 27% or lower. At the same time, there is a rapid rise of the African continent, other regions of the global south and east, in the market of which Russia is actively reorienting. These are the Asia-Pacific region, Latin America and the Caribbean, South Asia, the Middle East and Southeast Asia. New types of multilateral formats are becoming increasingly important, such as BRICS, where Russia holds the chairmanship this year, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Eurasian Economic Union, Asia, the African Union, the Community of Latin American and Caribbean Countries, CELAC. Integration efforts are gaining momentum. For example, the Russian flagship initiative of the Greater Eurasian Partnership. We have all managed to achieve here, to achieve a reversal of the Group of 20 towards the priorities of developing economies. A series of presidencies of emerging market countries, Indonesia, India, and now Brazil, played a fundamental role here. We are convinced that this trend will continue during the upcoming presidency of South Africa. We actively welcome the accession of the African Union to the G20. We also support the attitude of the League of Arab States to join the work of the forum, and in general, I would suggest thinking about creating a specialized cooperation track of regional platforms in the Group of 20. Tangible progress has been made in the field of de-dollarization of the international financial economic system, in particular. The values of national currencies in Russia's settlements with the countries of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization and the Eurasian Economic Union have already exceeded 90%. With our BRICS partners, we have reached the figure of 65%, and this figure is growing. The share of the dollar in the structure of payments of BRICS members is now below 29%. For our part, we are promoting the launch of an independent payment and settlement mechanism in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Another promising topic under consideration is a single platform for settlements in digital national currencies through the BRICS. Nevertheless, some global mechanisms still somehow remain in the hands of the West, which abuses it. Of particular concern are the attempts of the United States and its allies to impose a confrontational agenda on international structures to make them agents of unilateral restrictions, embezzlement, seizure of sovereign assets, trade wars, and unfair competition, including under the banner of ecology and climate. All of this, of course, is an obvious manifestation of neocolonialism. Over the past 10 years, the collective West has imposed over 21,000 illegal restrictions against Russia alone. Their extraterritorial application is an even more odious, illegitimate raider approach that primarily hits the victorious countries and needy groups of the population, depriving them of affordable energy resources, food, and fertilizers. We are in favor of developing economies receiving voting shares commensurate with their weight in the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. No shareholder in the IMF, including the United States, should be able to block collective decisions. The very monopoly of the West on determining the scale of priorities of the Bretton Woods institutions is unacceptable, which leads to a flow of funds to fuel military adventures to the detriment of assistance to Africa, Asia, Latin America, and international development in general. It is also necessary to achieve the fulfillment of commitments by foreign donors, implying the allocation of 0.7% of GDP annually for development assistance. For the first time, this commitment was made 50 years ago, and it has not been fulfilled. And also the promised $100 billion to finance climate action. As I understand it, nothing has been done here either. All the attention, all the resources of international institutions, and the West are absorbed by Ukraine. It is required to restore the full-fledged activity of the World Trade Organization in a short time. Now this activity is interrupted by the destructive line of the United States, which does not allow the TOE dispute resolution bodies to resume work, which has been doing nothing for many, many years. Another urgent task is to combat the dominance and influence of citizens of Western states in senior positions in international secretariats and the excessive involvement of initially engaged non-governmental organizations in intergovernmental processes. The reform of the global governance architecture should be carried out taking into account the continuing central role of the UN in the system of international relations. The Charter and international rights should not be replaced by certain cell rules. The perniciousness of behind-the-scenes methods and the need to reanimate the genuine interstate nature of the World Organization have become particularly obvious in the situation with the so-called Future Pact. The future of our peoples cannot be invented in a test tube with the participation of the UN Secretariat and Western lobbyists. It is important to form a decision on this issue in the context of negotiations, achieving a balance of interests. And let me remind you that when preparing the Future Pact, there was not a single round of negotiations, with the participation of all delegations. This is unprecedented. Moreover, a couple of years ago, we agreed to adopt this pact by consensus. It didn't work out because of the mentioned experiments. And it is not for nothing that the appeal, which is being adopted by the G20 on the initiative of Brazil, only notes this pact. A laptop and nothing else. He didn't deserve more than that. Speaking of the appeal, I would like to mention the section devoted to the revitalization of the General Assembly. It says that it is necessary to strengthen the role of the General Assembly with the policy-making Andrew presentation of United. Those who wrote this future pact behind the scenes, somewhere on their knees, in a twist, do not want to see the General Assembly. It is sad when such a respected group as the G20 and its positions on the need to make the General Assembly a truly popular forum for discussion, decision-making on a universal basis, our group simply ignored the fact of the future. The key vector of our reform efforts should be ensuring the sovereign equality of all states. Our colleague from Mexico just spoke about this. This is the main provision of the UN Charter. It is written, "The United Nations is based on the sovereign equality of states, and, as I said, the search for a balance of their interests and mutual benefit." We should be driven by the desire to achieve genuine multilateralism, which is the main guarantee of strategic stability, indivisible security, and an open, non-discriminatory economy. Thank you for your attention.